like a butterfly flapping his wings deep down into the forest, man. It's gonna cause a tree fall like 5,000 miles away, man. There ain't nobody seeing nobody. Man, see, like, you don't even know, man. It's like you're born into this world, man. And you got like that, man, the dust and wind, man. Or like the dang old candle, man. It don't matter, man. It's all the time.
That's all right. Cool. Bog Beef. Welcome to Jay Burden Show. How you doing, man?
Yo, how you doing?
I'm doing real well. It's funny. This happens a lot with guys that I'll communicate with on Twitter, which is like, I'll be listening to your work. I'll send you a message back and forth. And I forget it's actually been a while since you and I have spoken on air, so to speak. So I'm glad to have you back on, dude.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're kicking ass out here, dude.
Yeah, it was funny. I got because I've said before, right, that I've recently gone full time, and I got a very nicely phrased email that basically said like, hey man, this is great, but like you're putting out enough stuff, I'm struggling to keep up. And kind of tongue in cheek, I just sent an email back. I was like, well, what did you expect? Like you wanted a full time podcaster, you're getting it, maybe unlike the more Mediterranean listeners, they don't quite understand it, Bog Beef, but when a Protestant Anglo-American decides to work at something, they have this thing called the work ethic, Protestant work ethic, one might even say. And so, it's all good fun, but yeah, man, I'm trying to put out a lot of stuff, but
absolutely. If anybody ever has problems with the Protestant work ethic, go check out a Chick-fil-A drive-through versus the competition.
that's a great example, because at least where I live, it seems like almost every kid who works at a Chick-fil-A is like a homeschooled, like incredibly like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Yeah. So excited to help you with like a big cross necklace. Like they can't wait to go to college and they're paying their way by working at Chick-fil-A.
Attitude is everything. Yeah. And they're the only people who would do the wagey dance, but they don't have to. You hip to the wagey dance?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Oh God.
It's why I always feel bad. Like, they're like in my mind, a thoroughly like third rate chain, but like sometimes you're on the road. And at least when I was growing up, like if you ever went into a Moe's, they'd make everyone in the entire place scream, welcome to Moe's. And I just always felt so bad for him. I'd never go. So I'm like, I don't want to make you do it.
Yeah. The dude on the grill who's on his third, whatever, bonded out of jail or whatever. And he's got to do the welcome to Moe's. Oh man.
Dude, I only had one job in high school, working food service. I hated it. Like genuinely hated it. And a lot of it was that kind of stuff. Like the wagey dance. It is like, that's what we did to people in Ghetto, like make them sing, make them dance. It's humiliating.
It's horrific. I wonder why they do that shit.
I have no idea. Genuinely, I guess I don't really care to learn a whole bunch about like the psychology of, like fast food. I assume there's some sort of like Edward Bernays-esque figure, who like got his start in like concentration camps and decided to apply that psychology to fast food. Just don't want to know about the rest of the business.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. In the Gulag in the Soviet Union, they made you like sing Stalin's birthday, happy birthday to Stalin and shit like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's just weird. Like I understand the humiliation rituals before you get hired. Like one of my favorite ones is especially when you're real young and I'm following the directions in the website or whatever. You spend like 3 hours filling out this application. You get the exact month that you left McDonald's or whatever. You fill it out all perfectly. You get there and then they hand you another application. They say, fill this shit out with your hand. You're like, oh, do yeah, I filled out, I filled out the one on the website. Yeah, we want you to fill this one out again. Like they have the other one. Like this is like before you're in. They're like, oh, if I tell you to go take out the trash, and your shift ended, will you do it? I don't know. We'll see. Will you fill out will you fill out another application? Yeah, everyone's had that before, right? They make you fill it out again. No matter how many, if you've done it before, you have to fill it out again.
So this might be legally unwise, but I will include the name of the fast food pizza place I worked at. I worked at a Marco's Pizza, which is a bad business that you shouldn't go to. And part of the reason I'm going to say this is I quit. I worked there for, I don't know, a couple months or whatever. And I quit because we got our sanitation rating. And at least in Virginia at the time, they'd give you like a 0 to 100 score, like an A grade. But it was based off of like a 240 some point test. And out of those, right, we had scored like a 54 out of 240 some, which is not a failing, it's not a passing grade. And I remember like the inspector left and our manager was all pissed off. He was like slamming doors and stuff. And I just remember looking at it and I was like, oh, I'm going to kill someone. Like I'm going to give someone's grandma like a poison pizza. And I just walked out and never came back. So I was like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, actually, Bug Beef, surprisingly enough, we're not actually here to talk about fast food. Although I kind of like the idea that the reason they make the wages sing is not for the customer's benefit, right? But it's just to, sort of like 1984, like beat down the workers so they don't feel like they can rebel. I don't know, it's funny. But we're actually here to talk about the Supreme Court because in my mind, this is sort of the biggest untapped story of the last couple of weeks. You've heard a little bit of it, but the shutdown and other things have sort of taken over it. But it appears as if the Supreme Court is going to limit Section 2 of the VRA, right, the Voting Rights Act, which, as written, prohibited racial discrimination against racial minorities in voting. And fair enough, that seems to be reasonable. But how it was implemented was that you must have districts on racial lines, right? You must have majority-minority voting districts. And it seems as if the Supreme Court is going to strike that down. Now, why that matters is depending on who you ask, that could grant Republicans anywhere from 11 to 15 seats, mostly across the South, and take a lot of states from being purple to solidly red. What's interesting, and I'll say this before I throw this back to you, is that this is actually a fairly long pattern of restricting the VRA, and particularly the angle they're taking is that this was a legitimate thing to do at one point, but at a certain time, like you pretty much tried it. And if it didn't work after 25 or 50 years, you have to try something else. Some stuff that is, and this is crazy, Bug Beef, I learned that this was a requirement when this story happened. And it's just crazy that effectively states are required to have Democrat seats no matter what. That was the thing that really blew me away, but I'm curious, what's your take on this?
Yeah. And I'm not a lawyer, and I've kind of, there are a lot of stories where I want to hear from an expert. Any of these stories these days, this feels like common throughout throughout everything. There's essentially no person. I don't think there's anyone who would be a legitimate expert who would answer questions honestly about this story period.
Yeah. It's like by knowing about this, you must have been in on the secret,
Yes. Yeah. Now, speaking of which, did you know about those? Did anyone tap you on the shoulder and tell you about filling out for the PPP loan to get the
No.
Yeah.
I just had to get a job during COVID, right? Like
nobody told me shit. And to find out afterwards that all these Republican congressmen or whatever, look, I don't care if you took the money. How come the Democrat people, their representatives said, hey, look, you just go on the website and say so you got a side hustle, bro. They didn't tell us shit. Where's
Well,
my
actually,
Hellcat?
well, that's literally exactly what I was going to bring up, because that's the moment where it felt like the Charger and the Challenger blew up, where they
Oh,
had
for
been
sure.
making them forever, but it was always like kind of an old person car. And like if you saw like a younger guy, particularly a brother driving one, it was normally like a police surplus one, which is like, not the base model, but it isn't exactly like the top of the line 700 horsepower, trim. And it felt like all of a sudden it went from being like a niche car, which you'd still see, like a Camaro or something, to just everywhere almost overnight. Like they were selling like crazy and selling like, up to like $150,000 Chargers. Similarly, if you worked at or went to certain restaurants, you started seeing a different clientele. I'll leave that as neutral as I possibly can for the sake of YouTube, but like it, looking back on it, it just made a ton of sense because it seemed like there was just money flying around like crazy, much more so than like the stimmy you or I got.
Oh yeah, for sure. I I never knew brothers to be into sports cars at all. I mean, like, motorcycles are much less popular than sports cars, and I would see, there would be, I go to my local, everyone goes to, go to Sonic on Saturday night, whatever, cars and coffee, all this bullshit. And there'd be, they'd like one black guy with a Corvette or whatever, and he was in the army or whatever.
Yeah, who had like a veteran hat and he wore like tall white socks, that kind of guy.
Yeah. But, uh, there would be, in fact, I mean, there was a decent number of young black guys who were into motorcycles, and motorcycles are much less popular. But until the PPP loans, I never seen black guys. I don't say young. This isn't. I don't know how young they're. But I'm with sports cars, because sports cars. We've had this conversation before, because Corvettes and stuff are. When I say young here, I mean like under 50, because that is these days. If you see someone driving a Corvette that's like 38, that's not a young person, but in the relative to the sports car, it is. But yeah, I never ever saw this until that. Although, speaking of which, one of my boys just picked up a 2012 SRT 8 6-speed for $10,000.
That's not bad, assuming he is the legitimate lawful owner of it. Which, given the price in that car, is a big if.
Yeah. Well, I have an old Mopar, and it's got a 440. I think the 392 be a big step up. If I could find the right drivetrain wrapped around a freight telephone pole. But anyways, yeah. So this is one of these things that, and this probably nothing cut me off from the mainstream right wing sort of listening to them about anything. And honestly, I would be more open to these people than lots of people. And a few times I've seen someone like Ben Shapiro or whatever, they don't seem to be stupid. Sometimes they'd make novel arguments about things or whatever. But after finding out about like all, these guys would just sort of like tell people all this stuff, like, we just treat people as individuals, whatever. And like we were 10, like we that was unbelievably illegal already at that point. And this goes for like a million things. They were telling us to act in ways that I have to think that they knew that these things were illegal. And it's very strange to sort of talk about, it's just sort of like the Reagan thing with shrinking the government. I mean, that they didn't. And I mean, it's in hindsight, yeah, I wouldn't want that smoke either, I guess, if it was the 1980s. It's really fucking hard to shrink the government. These people, they got the union and stuff like that. The second you want to fire, you want to actually to downsize, say, yeah, we're going to reduce the amount of federal workers in DC. I mean, I think we've seen that is the most difficult task that Trump has been proceeding with. I think that is currently right now paused by Northern California District Court judge.
Yeah, well, and I think it's interesting to me because I have positive and negative feelings about kind of Trump 2.0. But in my mind, there have been several moves made that indicate that there is, I guess, a possibility of a more serious Republican Party moving away from their role as the Washington Generals, which by the way, Bug Beef, I don't know if you realize this. I steal 99% of what I say from books or people I listen to. You should be suing me because I've taken like 10 different analogies, and that's one that I've now said enough that I will get quoted as the person who came up with it.
That's America original.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
That's even better.
Hmm.
The point is, but
Yeah, he's not here. Fuck him.
yeah, he's not here. Although with Spanberger, who knows? We might both be doomed.
Yeah.
But the reason I brought it up is to say that there were a couple of those moves, and the three I can think off the top of my head are one, going after USAID, which is another one of those kind of secrets that felt like no one ever told me about, where it was basically, oh no, you can just be paid to be a Democrat activist, excuse me, by the government. They'll just cut you a check. Okay. Like the example I always think of is like a whole bunch of the moderate, quote unquote, conservative Christian stuff, like Christianity Today, Russell Moore's outfit, a couple others that were very anti-Trump. Well, it turns out they were getting millions of dollars from the government. Okay, fair. I didn't know that. That's interesting. But the idea that they're going after that, it's like, okay, like that's interesting. Like we just mentioned earlier, the fact that they're going after this sort of districting, another indication that, well, I had no idea that was even required. Which, by the way, I don't know if you checked this, it's crazy. But apparently under a previous version of the VRA, states that had been determined to have like a particularly racist past had to get permission from outside parties to draw voting lines just forever, which is crazy. Again, that was struck down about 20 years ago, but still, it's absurd that that was the law of the land for the 40 years prior. And then lastly, obviously this case of or this whole kind of trend of going after voting, going after redistricting. But I don't know if you're aware, and I think this might be the most interesting development in American domestic politics, is the fact that SNAP and EBT might be going away at the end of the month, which I don't know, man. It is kind of interesting that they seem to be actively going after, shall we say, the client groups of their opponents there.
100%. This is the formula to win. I talked a lot to the normal Republicans and stuff, and that is the like whenever I'm sort of like whenever I'm talking to people who've been Republicans for a long time and sort of general ideas that given to them by Fox News and stuff for a long time, 99% of the time it's the same thing. Basically, they'll tell me stuff like either these kinds of things like not exactly, but things like people like, oh, their Democrat representatives don't actually care about them, or like whatever, the hood, Section 8 is a trap, or corruption, blah blah blah. The implication like, oh, did you see Joe Biden said you're not black if you don't vote for me, blah blah, all this kind of shit. And then this is when you have to like always cut to the chase and be like, okay, what has and then you sort of relate to them like one of these, the average one of these inner city people of any stripe, rich, poor, middle class, who's in some way in the Patronage network, and a huge amount of them are, what that looks like versus a Republican guy who just says stuff. They just say stuff, in terms of like, what has a Republican politician ever done for me in terms of material stuff that a outside party doing Discovery or something like that has ever done for me? There's I always
Well, dude, like the COVID stuff is the perfect example of that, where it's like the deal offered to us was, well, you might get another stimulus check. The deal offered to other groups was like, hey, do you want $40,000 free? Like,
yes.
just make up a business.
Yes.
Our like patronage was being like, oh, hey, you can go back to church if you want and you wear a mask. Like,
yes.
it's just being allowed to, like, the patronage offered to us and ours is basically, hey, we won't take this thing that every human has done for all of history away from you.
Yeah.
It's not a great deal.
There was this on the MTV Music Awards a million years ago. The old dirty bastard from Wu-Tang. I don't know. MTV sort of attached like a crew to follow him around and stuff like that. And they were having the music awards in New York City. And he's from the Ghetto in New York City. So he said, okay, well, it just happens to be because the time matched. I'll take you guys with me to go pick up my welfare check. And they did this. They brought a camera crew and everything. And he takes this MTV camera crew with him. He's obviously, so he's riding in the back of his Rolls Royce with his chauffeur because he's a multimillionaire entertainer to go get his welfare check. And he starts talking about, and he would do the the whole hood is a trap thing or whatever kind of stuff, but in a way of like, but he said like, so he showed him where he lived and stuff. He's like, so everyone in my family, they live over there. He's like 3 generations. He says, no one, he's like, I didn't know. He said, like, I thought money was something that came from like the mailbox. That's where you get money. He's like, no, I've never met anyone. No one in my family. None of us had a job. This just doesn't exist. The idea of like, they're going to watch like some person give arguments and like, oh, I like this part. Like, you're just not on the same planet. Like politics, as these people perceive, where you're like chin stroking, you're like, oh, okay, I guess this person makes a different decision. I mean, obviously, if Democrat rule would to end in New York City tomorrow, like at every level, like, and these things were rolled back in any sort of way, like the entire way of life of these people would end. I mean, these places, they're functionally they have no. I always, have you seen that music video? It's so cold in the D. It's like, this doesn't even really relate to like sort of woke people on Twitter and stuff. This is like a foreign country. Like this, whatever this is, doesn't exist on our map at all. And this is huge. And there's so many of these area things. And by the way, a college campus and is not too much unfamiliar like this. I went to college. I never knew what a grad student was. I didn't know what grad school was. I didn't understand, like, I mean, I knew people would get a medical diploma. I knew I knew that you could get a master's degree in business. I didn't know there was this thing where you just like sort of hanging out at school. And did you see this recent woman who she's running for
regardless of how you're going to end that bug beef? No, I did not.
So there was this woman recently running for the governor of California. Governor of
Okay, the irony is I did in fact see that woman. I thought this was going to be some like TikTok or like e-girl who I block on site. So yeah, I am familiar with this woman.
Yeah, heavy set white woman, whatever. Katie Porter. So she has a mansion that is permanently on campus at like UCLA or USC or something like that. Like, I can't imagine what that's. I mean, like, you ain't got to worry about anything. Like that is, that would be the best. That you live in the Truman Show. I mean, it's a college campus. Everyone is rich, young, and beautiful, and there are entire different planets everywhere. and they're all funded from your money. Is basically what I'm getting at here.
Oh,
And
100%. And it's like the reason that, that's relevant to the Supreme Court story, right? Is like not only are you footing the bill for their patronage, you're required to pay for it. And I mean, you've seen the weeping and gnashing of teeth with the government shutdown, which I mean, Bugby, has this shutdown affected you in any way?
no, not one
No,
bit.
no, it literally just serves effect to take my money.
The
And
only
okay,
thing, one time I have thought about it where I was like, I might need a new silencer. I wonder if the ATF is still running. That's the 100% of my cognitive load towards this shutdown.
which is me voluntarily giving them more money. Yeah,
Yes.
that is the one interaction. And so not only are you required to foot the bill for patronage, and not just on the welfare level, but also all of these, Washington bureaucrats who are, ensuring that I will live in the Spanberger Reich, at least for the next 4 years. Not only that, not only is even just a procedural shutdown like the end of the world. Oh, but also you have to let those people vote at a much higher level than any other population, right? You have to basically give them an advantage even in the chud states. And it really is like, it is incredible the amount of, I guess, deference given to like Democrat client groups. Like they're basically like, and obviously the aesthetics are slightly different, but like they're basically like a samurai class or something like that. They get a stipend, they get privileges you don't. And woe betide you if you insult that group.
It's unreal. Every single debate I've done a couple debates, and they always end up going to this stuff because I will reference something like every debate I've ever done on the internet, or I mean, like whatever on a show or whatever. I'll bring up something like ethnic machine voting or whatever, which is how this stuff works. Which is that's another box like of. I mean, the idea that if you don't have a signature match and you just know the name of every single person in this ghetto, like you don't even have to go door to door. You could literally, I mean, like, it's totally insane. But anyways, it'll always like, I'll be like, okay, yeah. So, ethnic machine voting, like ethnic machine voting, excuse me, how dare you? And then I'll pull up on it. I've ended up having to go to the same one because it's just so quick and easy. There's just there's a woman on Twitter, and she's paid by the Democrat Party and like whatever one of these, Progress Today or Progress USA, Democracy Now, tomorrow, whatever. There's a fucking billion of these things. And literally says her job is galvanize Arab votes in New York City. That's her job. She gets up in the morning, she gets paid and to do that. And like, as soon as they'll be like, what are you talking about? You're talking about like moon being made of cheese. And as soon as I bring it up, like immediately, like there's like okay, this guy knows. Okay. So then they flip and then we start having a different conversation. And ultimately, like the whole thing is we've all been playing these reindeer games and they don't even realize they can't win. I mean, look how funny this is. I'm sure that's what they're thinking. I'm sure they're laughing their ass.
It's like I don't know if you had like a little brother or something, but like it's like when you used to play like video games back in the day with like wired controllers. Like you do this on the PS2, where you could like unplug the middle section of the cord, so it looked like it was still there, but it wasn't connected to anything. Like that's basically what politics is.
Yes, and so when you're like, oh yeah. No, the law says that the whole thing about what turned me off to mainstream right wing was that they never told me that intent was not required for discrimination. That I feel like I should have known that. But now going to here, it's like, oh yeah, there is like a permanent Reconstruction law, like the South is just under permanent Reconstruction occupation.
Well, your state is not sovereign. Like you don't get to make the final choices. Other states are, but not where you live.
Yeah, and it feels like. By the way, the one thing where like, look, I'm I'm sorry, I am doing this show. I am commenting on this story. I could not find an answer to this. I wish there was an expert out there that could, but I honestly, I did research this and I don't believe someone could tell me an answer to this. But, regarding that federal guidance and the pre-clearance and stuff, you mentioned that before, that stuff about like, okay, you have to redraw the lines. You have to get the DOJ or the DC District Court to sign off on your redistricting, which that's what's what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that part struck me as very strange because, like, okay, right now it's like, okay, I can get approved by either the DOJ or the DC District Court. Well, I mean, who you going to ask is going to be very different.
Well, not only that, but like, let's remember who the DOJ is. That's a political institution. They have appointed, right, people at the top. And so like, you're basically, again, you're giving your like state, I guess, sovereignty out. Like, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, like is Germany a real country? Well, I mean, yeah, in some ways, but also like, they need to ask permission to declare war. They need to ask permission to do a whole bunch of other stuff, which means like, yeah, they're kind of a real country, but like, it's like if your buddy like has an apartment, but his dad pays his rent. You're like, okay, we were kind of an adult, but like fundamentally someone else is making the decisions, calling the shots here. And that's again, like going back to that whole dynamic of like playing with the controller unplugged. We're like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that for literally 60 years, the rules were just, oh yeah, if your electoral maps are bad, we can just change them. Like we can just set them up how we want to benefit us, literally explicitly, to give us more of an advantage. Yeah. It's crazy. It would be like if we decided that like military veterans or like, I don't know, guys who can like deadlift 3 plates had to be like, had to be represented in political districts. It's like, yeah, you don't think that would change things? Or like, I don't know, pastors with more than 3 children. Like, yeah, of course it would. Of course it would. And it's just crazy that, again, it was like, this was not at the forefront of politics. This was just something happening in the background.
Yeah. And it's not like it's hidden. There's nothing, you don't have to look up anything. Like, it literally just, the law says, okay, if you're a racial minority, you have to be given an auto win. I mean, look at New York. I mean, New York City, like how many significant racial minorities are there? This country is a zoo. This isn't just like the white man and ex-slaves anymore. I mean, this country is a zoo. I mean, like what are we even talking about here? And this created, I mean, by the way, like there's so many questions about this. Who's that brain dead old black lady who's in the Congress in California?
She's the funny one, Maxine Waters. Yeah.
There are like, her district like doesn't have any black people left in it. I don't know how the hell she's still in Congress. I'm who knows what the fuck that's going on there, because there are it feels like this is a Pandora's box that people just like, they're like, well, let's just fuck with it later. Let's just put this all there to some extent. Now, for anyone who was on the right or whatever, which that gets bizarre if you try to think about how many actual right-wing people who have ever been president since like World War II or whatever. Like,
well, I mean, like, this is a very, very uncomfortable topic to discuss, particularly if you have certain priors. I mean, like, as kind of a mainstream conservative. And this is something that Nick Land was writing about like 10 years ago in Dark Enlightenment, where he was talking about like the terror conservatives have when you start talking about race. Like, it's just something they do not want to talk about, because historically that is the topic that they just, as soon as it is brought up, they lose. it's like the magic win button. And so understandably, it's something they just don't want to open. And so I guess you could look at it that way, which is basically like, even for the so-called like principled conservatives type, like this is just something they do not want to, they don't want to pick at that sore, I guess.
Well, I mean, the last person who did the only person, there was a mainstream Republican I don't know if he was Republican because he ran. There was he was certainly a Democrat, but whatever. There's a party switch, whatever. Regardless of any of that bullshit, he was certainly a conservative. The last person who was a legit conservative and on the national stage, Governor George Wallace, who said the Civil Rights Act was bullshit. They got him back on the plantation. He caught a bullet, and he changed his mind. He learned his lesson.
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of the interesting thing as well. He died much later than I thought. That's what I was just checking. But yeah, it is sort of this interesting thing as well, where it's like you're talking about the sort of way in which like voting is sort of like mobbed up, right? That like ultimately, and we saw this in 2020, which was the fairest and freest election in history. It's like, well, ultimately, like the voting isn't really what matters, right? It's who votes and where. And, completely discounting the kind of like tinfoil hat stuff, very clearly 2020 was a case in which you could change the rules of the game enough to sort of manipulate procedural outcomes. And, obviously related to this is something you and I spoke about, I think on your show, right? Was all of this redistricting going on by both sides, which is effectively a broad recognition of exactly that trend, right? A broad realization like, okay, hey, look, guys, we're not even going to pretend that this is some sort of fair contest anymore. It's just a smash and grab. And like, look, man, the ERA is what? It's 60 some years old now. Like it's been a smash and grab for a long time, even if we just assume it started with that. It goes back way further. But it is kind of interesting that it seems to be a mutually agreed upon kind of feature of the system now, that it's just like do whatever you can.
Yeah, well, in a lot of ways, and there becomes weird math. There becomes weird incentives once you start like the whole the idea of with zoning and stuff, because you have the idea of the safe district or whatever. There are certainly politicians who will. There are people who, like, at the expense of their party, are able to keep a safe district and stuff like that. However, a lot of this stuff sounds bad on white pill time, though. I mean, so first off, the Voting Rights Act provision is going to go for the Supreme Court. They're going. I believe. I mean, I would. I'm not a betting man, but I would lay money that it will get struck down, because we saw the court invalidate affirmative action in college admissions. Now, when they did that, unfortunately, college admissions is still done by the enemy or whatever. So, okay, can you make them actually accept people on a colorblind basis? Probably can't until you actually have control over that institution. However, with this, at least in Republican states, we can move past this in one way. And so, I'm sure Democrat states will still do wherever the hell what they want, but this will be moving the ball down the field.
So, Bog Beef, this will make you laugh. So obviously, you have the ACLU very upset about this, the NAACP very upset about this. But there's another group, and let me find exactly the quote here. Yeah. So there is another group, Fair Fight Action, which is very worried about this. If you had to pick a prominent Southern Democrat who you think would start such a group, who would be very upset about this, who do you think it is?
Oh, South Carolina.
It is Stacey Abrams, quite possibly the person who is the most salty about this, because Georgia is obviously one of those states that's going to dramatically shift, right? Along with like Louisiana, Alabama too.
Oh man. Georgia needs a lot, man. They got Atlanta in Buckhead, they got snaked by Republican governor or whatever. Yeah, I mean that would be awesome. I mean, Georgia is kind of like the capital of the South. It would be awesome. It would be awesome, man. The whole Stacey Abrams thing. We dodged a bullet there. They were gonna give her Captain Kirk's job, and
I forgot about that.
they
Well, it didn't. What was Trump going after her for? Didn't she? Speaking of people who got memos we didn't get, wasn't she getting like a crazy like multi-billion-dollar contract from the Biden admin for like doing something with like smart appliances for homes in the South or something like that?
Yeah, it's funny to like the Democrats they're not feeling themselves anymore. A couple years ago, they were definitely feeling themselves. So now they're, all these people we've seen floated, they're going to be running. And I don't know if you saw this big statement they had their top guys put out and sign a paper and stuff. Oh, we know we did wrong and we're going to change, blah, blah. They're back to the white guys, right? So we're only going to see white guys wrong. We're going to see Newsom. We're going to see Andy Bashir and stuff like that.
Pete Buttigieg has disappeared.
Yep. They put all the freaks back in the closet, but back when they were feeling themselves, man, they were really getting ready to stick it to us, man. I mean, like you could tell they were just so close. They were so close.
Yeah, well, and that's I think an interesting thing about this. If this actually changes, it could mean a seismic change. Because when I was looking up the name of Stacey Abrams' group, the reason they were mentioned is that they estimated how many seats this could flip, and they set up to 20, which 20 seats is huge. Actually, one of the figures that this could result in their exit from politics is my favorite and or least favorite, depending on how you look at it, Congresswoman, Rep. Jasmine Crockett, RIP. Seems as if she will be out of a job if they're allowed to go through with this redistricting. Although I think Texas had been on it earlier, but obviously that will affect it even more. But unfortunately, it seems like she'll be out of her job. But it is like it just goes to show how much, because obviously it's the control of one side of the legislature, which isn't the whole enchilada, but still you realize that basically, again, for the last 60 years, you've been fighting at like a 20-seat disadvantage just off the rip is crazy, and could change things much more than the kind of like big headline like culture war stories that you read about every day. Whereas this one has certainly been around, but it's, despite flying under the radar, it's like honestly a way bigger deal than almost anything else.
Yeah, and these people, because they got these automatic win seats, we have DEI for voting, which is insane. I mean, this is your real zoo crew. I mean, like all the people who sort of okay, your Maxine Waters, your Cory Booker, Hakeem Jeffries, that bald-headed bitch in Ayanna Presley or whatever. I mean, these because you can just let your freak flag fly. Latifah Simon, that's a good one.
Well, because these seats they're not even real political seats anymore. They're just guaranteed roster spots. And so you can put in like an insane radical, and look, like, yeah, sure, in Queens, that makes sense. Like in AOC's district, you can see it. But in Texas or Georgia or Alabama, which are taken as a whole rather conservative states, culturally, why would they be producing these like insane radicals? And it's like, oh, well, we just found out why.
Ilhan Omar. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, sorry, she does come from a communist state, I believe, right? She's Minnesota.
Yeah. And I don't who knows if Somalis are even a minority anymore. Yeah, these people like what I'm curious about, like, by the way, I'm 100% sure no matter what happens, old Jim Clyburn will survive. The only person who's going to take him out of Congress is the Grim Reaper. These other people, I don't know. We'll see. But I wonder how much of this lets these people just like just like rub. I don't think anyone like Ilhan Omar and stuff just like rub people's nose and shit and stuff like that. Like you really have zero kind of like impetus to have like any table manners whatsoever. I don't know. Like I know that goes on certainly in the state houses and stuff. Are there Republican Congress people who behave like this? I don't know if that's possible.
Well, I mean, I guess you could make the argument for like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like that, who are very much kind of playing to like one side of their base, not necessarily playing sort of like straight down the middle politics. Do you think that would disprove your idea there?
The only thing, I mean, she says some. I would not call her like straight up. She says some stuff from that's not straight up partisan like all the time now. I don't know if it was like she's been questioning Trump or what. And people say there's all this backroom politics and stuff. Regardless, I mean, I've never heard that from like Ayanna Pressley or whatever. Like, oh, well, I think Trump's got a good point with it. That's just not going to happen. Like ever. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I see your distinction. I see your point.
I mean, maybe I'm honestly curious. I'm not trying to argue anything. Like I just I am curious to see how this play out, but it's going to be awesome. I wonder how this. By the way, you talk about the SNAP benefits. Have you ever seen? Okay, have you ever seen two buggies with they weren't paying with SNAP benefits?
No, literally never.
Never. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm not sure. I've never like the two.
Honestly, this is similar to like when I found out about the whole like snow crab thing, where as soon as that was said, I was like, "You're goddamn right. You're completely right." I had never thought about it.
I love snow crabs. If people follow my Twitter, probably about half of the Sundays, I will post what I eat, and about half the time, I mean, I'll post what I eat on Sunday, most every Sunday. About half the time, it is snow crab legs. I love snow crab legs. And man, could you getting like
the last few years have been tough for you then?
Yeah, a politician giving me free snow crab legs, like this is what they're like, oh, these Democrats, they're pulling the wool over the eyes of their constituents. Like, no one's ever given me free snow crab legs.
All I'm saying is, like, you got to understand if talking to politicians here, you got to understand our demographic hasn't been given a lot. You don't have to give us 40 grand in a Hellcat. I don't know, a nice seafood box. One of those ones that come on dry ice. That'd go a long way. I've named my price before for any kind of foreign intelligence agency. So like, maybe throw something around us.
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, as regards the whole like SNAP benefits thing, you've seen a lot, and it's hard to tell if this is like red meat, like popcorn stuff, of people basically saying like, "Oh, if I don't get my benefits, I'm just going to start stealing." I mean, that might well be the case. There is also a benefit to like stoke fear on that front, as you can obviously imagine. But I'm kind of curious to see if they actually have the guts to let it go down to the wire, because I mean, this is truly unprecedented in the last, 4 generations of American politics.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, to be 100% honest, this is nothing, this isn't right wing or left wing or whatever, but, anyone who's had any sort of political, you take in a class, some political science, whatever, like the rule of politics is that, you have politics and you have all the left wing or right wing, all blah, blah, blah. Politics ends supposedly 100% of the time, when, 3 meals, when the population misses 3 meals. And, it's never like 100% or whatever. Like they were exporting. There's this big drama with Ireland, where they were still exporting food when people they had the potato famine, whatever. But regardless, when people start starving, I mean, does it? It certainly doesn't feel like the Washington D.C. is perceiving like perceiving, the revolution or whatever. It's crossed my mind. I've also thought about like the whole. I've been reading the rereading because I always tell anecdotes from it, and people kept asking about it. I was like, okay, I went and picked it up again, and I just can't stop reading it. One of my favorite books, The Great Age of Exploration. And when Vasco da Gama, like when the Portuguese, when they figure out getting pepper. So before they figured it out, before Western Europe like had a way to go get the pepper, like every single person between from Portugal to the Molucca Islands was getting a cut from Whitey. We were all getting a cut from pepper. Apparently, like there were alternatives to pepper, but they really suck. You almost need it pretty much as soon as they got introduced to it. And so they were all just getting robbed. As soon as Vasco da Gama, he goes and sets up his own trade route and stuff, and they bring back these ships and ships of pepper. All these people invested all this money. All the richest people in Europe, they invest all this money for these big ships to come back. As soon as they did that, pepper was fucking worthless. Like they didn't quite have economics at that time. They didn't really understand it. There was people all kinds of saying all this crazy metaphysical reasons why they didn't get it. It's like, what do you mean? Like we have like 1 billion tons of pepper now. I should be the richest man on earth. Well, it's like, no, actually what I'm getting at here. I wonder if there is a supply and demand element we would see, but I have no idea what to think because obviously, if I was the governor of a very liberal state, and would I still be talking shit or whatever if I thought for a third of the people go hungry or whatever? I'm not seeing that. So I mean, what am I supposed to think? I have no way of knowing what these guys are thinking, but it certainly doesn't look like they're sweating it.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly true. Although I will say, I was actually in DC this weekend. And in addition to having the privilege of going to a Korean karaoke bar with one Thomas 777, which was a funny incident in its own right. Dude, that whole place is dead. There's nothing going on. No one's there. All the restaurants are closed. All the bars are closed. It's dead. It looks like everywhere else did, during, the summer of 2020, where it was just nothing open. And look, like maybe it was just that I happened to be in an area that was quiet. Like that might have been the case, but it seemed weird. It seemed really weird. Like you're in a city, a big city, and I've been there a ton of times. It's not that far away from me. And, normally it's like, okay, maybe it doesn't have the same nightlife that like New York does, but if there was a bar, it would be open past 9 o'clock, right? Like a normal bar would in small town America, even. So who knows, man?
Did you ask? What do you think is the cause?
The best bet we could get was one, DC is always, a little bit quiet on the weekends, but effectively it's, almost a month-long government shutdown. So no one's out spending money anymore. No one's got money to throw around at bars. And I guess maybe it was just costing the restaurants and the bars more money to be open than just to hunker down. But it was crazy, man. Like literally, it looked like walking around like during the pandemic did, where you could just like look down the street both sides, and it looked like it was the middle of the night where there'd be nothing open at like 8 or 9 p.m.
That's awesome.
Anyway, the reason I bring that up is, dude, I have no idea what's going on. But Bog Beef, unfortunately, I've got to run. Got to wrap this up. I had something come up. But dude, where can people find you? Where can they find your work?
We stream twice a week on Kick at GOODOLBOYZ, and you can find us on Patreon at the same one.
Sure thing. Highly recommend it. I don't miss an episode. And as you guys know, there's almost no one on the internet I actually listen to. So take that as quite the endorsement. My stuff, Jay Burden Show, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you want to listen to it. If you want the episodes early and ad-free, you'll have to throw me a few bucks. You can do so on Patreon, Substack, or Gumroad. Again, Bog Beef, I appreciate it. Everyone at home, keep your head up. I can't last forever. Good night.